Up next on Live It Up, I am welcoming a very fun guest. His name is Andrew Cotto, and he's an author, an educator, and much more. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. We've already been having some fun this morning. We discovered that we're both teachers, so tell us about who you're teaching right now and where.
I teach full-time at LIM College in Manhattan, which is where business meets fashion. So we are training students for the world of fashion, the fashion industry.
A lot of creative types then, huh?
A lot. They're all 18, 19, 20-year-olds in New York City, most for the first time exploring the fashion industry, of course, where it really is, the epicenter of it. But they also take liberal arts classes, so they take writing and math, etc. And I teach in the writing program, freshman English mostly, and then some literature classes and creative writing too.
And then where's the other place that you teach?
I teach at St. Francis College in Brooklyn part-time.
Okay.
I work in their undergraduate program, then also in their Masters of Creative Writing program.
Did you know you always wanted to teach? Is that something early on that you thought, hey, you know what, I'd like to teach?
Yeah, it actually was. Both my parents were teachers at certain points in their life. My father was a music teacher, and my mother taught grammar school. And I really liked, that sort of, career where you're sort of working with people, and it does always a strength of mine was being personable, instructing others. I was a United Way big brother in college. I liked sort of that role of being a mentor and helping people. And when I got out of college, I said that was my original plan, was to be a teacher and a writer. So I moved to New York with this grand plan to sort of be a starving artist, get my master's degree. I was living on my cousin's couch, and about a week later, I was getting kind of sick of that. And somebody offered me a job in the entertainment business. It was someone who said they knew I had history with music, that I was sort of personable, I guess. And I thought, there's a paycheck. There was, a future in it, and I sort of put my plans on hold to sort of, and to pursue something a little more secure.
So you became a sales person, which is also very, community driven, right? You got to have, nice rapport with people.
Yeah, I think having the ability to get along with people and be sort of somewhat personally dynamic was a big part of that job. It wasn't particularly challenging, intellectually, but it was fun. It was fun from a personal standpoint. Because my job was basically create relationships, maintain those relationships, help the business. It was lots of great travel.
I was going to say, a favorite memory. Do you have a favorite memory from your music days?
I used to go to New Orleans a lot.
Okay.
That was my favorite place to go. It still is. I just went there on a writing assignment in June. So going to New Orleans early and often in that career was really nice. But the funny thing is that, at one point during, I guess as I got on in years, I became more and more successful, I won a contest that the company was having, and they gave us a free trip. They had a cruise offered anywhere you wanted to go, and I don't want to go on cruises. I don't need floating hotels for entertainment. So I said, how about you give me the money, and I'll take it, do what I want with it. And so they gave me the money. And
they did?
Yeah, they gave me the cash, which at the time was a pretty good chunk of change. I was married at the time, and still married now, without children. So my wife and I took the money and went to Italy.
Okay.
My first time visiting Italy. I'm of Italian-American descent, but I'd never been to Italy. And we did the Venice, Florence, Rome, 3-city first-class trip. And we were there in Florence, I remember very vividly, drinking Prosecco on our balcony, looking over the Arno River, saying to my wife, we got to move here. We have to come.
And you did.
And we did.
Wow.
So I got the idea in my head. My wife laughed at me and said, keep drinking Prosecco. But I was determined at that point. I'd been with my career for about 11 years, 12 years at that point. I really wanted to change. My original aspiration of teaching and writing was really starting to gnaw at me. Like I wanted to do it. I figured also, not that I was getting old at that point, but I figured if I didn't make a change at that point, it was going to be harder and harder. So
you know those moments sometimes in life. You get a crossroads, and it says choice A, choice B, and you're like, and it takes a lot of courage to walk away from everything and to make a move, right?
My wife's probably shivering right now thinking about this decision, because it was a big change, financially, for a little while. It was risky. My father was a risk taker. He was a music teacher till I was 12. He decided that at that point he didn't want to be a music teacher anymore. He wanted to do things in business. He wanted to make some more money. He wanted to use his intellect in different ways. And we started moving. He gave up his career, and every couple of years we'd move, in attempts to advance his career. And that took a lot of guts on his part. I think that inspired me. I like, I'm confident enough to do something like that. And, people thought we were crazy. They thought I was crazy for sort of brainstorming it. But it's really what I wanted to do. We had the means at the point. We were able to sublet our home in Brooklyn. It wasn't like we were throwing everything away. It wasn't, a crazy risk, but it was risky. And we got to Italy, and we spent a year in the hills just south of Florence. So I wrote my first book.
Yeah, and that's what, that dream and taking action on your own dream resulted in this.
Yeah, I've been working on it.
So the domino effect.
I've been working on that on the side. And writing on the side is hard. I know a lot of people don't have the means to write all day, every day, or half a day every day, and they sort of do it, before work or after work. And I was doing that, but it wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. I really needed to sort of immerse myself in the process every day in order to be successful with it. So the trip to Italy was part indulgence, but it was also part, to allow me to focus on writing. So every morning I'd write. My wife would take, we had an 18-year-old at the time, she's now 15, but Sophia and my wife at the time, yeah, we went to Italy, yeah. We were just looking at pictures yesterday of her when she was there. It was hysterical. And my wife would take her out we lived in like a refurbished barn right in the middle of an olive grove. It was spectacular. I'd kick open the doors, the light would come in, and they'd go off to the park somewhere, to the village nearby, and I'd write all morning long. And the time we finished our year there, I had the book finished.
Now this book has gotten some nice accolades. Can you brag about yourself for just a second?
Sure,
okay,
happy to.
What's one of the accolades that you're like, yeah?
As far as actual quote, well, it has lots of great reviews. It's done well. It won an award, which is probably the biggest accolade. It won the reader's favorite silver medal in the coming of age category, which is the kind of book it is. The coming of age book is what I think of as a book where adults can read it and adolescents can read it and sort of, get the same sort of enjoyment out of it. I really liked, my first love of reading was books like Catcher in the Rye and To Kill a Mockingbird, that classic coming of age. I was trying to emulate that, and I think this book is sort of similar to Catcher in the Rye. I think of it as Catcher in the Rye meets The Bronx Tale.
Fun.
Bronx Tale is a movie, not a book.
Right.
But
and speaking of places in New York, right? So this book is available on Amazon, right?
Yeah, this book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, some local bookstores. The easiest way to get it is online, through the traditional online retailers.
And it takes place where?
It's set in Queens.
Okay.
And then also a boarding school in Western New Jersey. So it has that sort of hybrid setting, a little bit of city, a little bit of, private schools, has that sort of, urban/prep tension to it.
And this book, your second book, is where? Takes place where?
Brooklyn. So the subtitle is, you can't see there, but the subtitle is A Brooklyn Mystery. So it's called Attleboro Blues, A Brooklyn Mystery. It takes place in Brooklyn. Makes sense. And it's noir, so it's a very different genre than the Domino Effect. Which one of the things I like about writing is, at least about my writing, is that I'm not committed to one genre. Of course, my agent hates that, and it makes it hard to find.
Because it's hard to write. Because once you find an audience for one book, now you're finding a different audience for a different book.
Right.
But that's okay. Be eclectic,
it is what
right?
it is. Right? I guess I'm not calculating enough to sort of think I'm going to write this kind of book and this kind of book only, because I write what occurs to me and what's appealing to me. And I started getting really into literary mystery and noir when I was in graduate school. I have an MFA in creative writing from the New School. When I was there, I was not particularly drawn to traditional literary fiction. I tend to like stuff more on the periphery, like the work of Walter Mosley or Dennis Lehane or George Pelecanos. Sort of gritty noir, but has literary aspects to it. It's not like bang bang, pulpy. It's legit literature. It truly is. Trust me.
And then you're working on a third book.
Well, the third book is finished. Right. Okay. So once I finished with this book, I started writing some journalism. I started writing for the New York Times Metropolitan section. I started doing travel writing for Men's Journal, food writing for Men's Journal, stuff for the Huffington Post, some parenting stuff. I sort of veered away from fiction for a little while. I wrote a couple of pilots for TV, because TV was becoming, a lot of writers, a lot of novelists were saying, we're going to take our wares into TV because there's such a need for programming. Yep. It's a little more immediate. The hard thing about writing is you'll dedicate a couple of years to a novel, and maybe it might not get published. With TV, there was more. You could sell the idea, and there was lots of people like Nick Pizzolatto who did True Detective. Who were novelists who turned into that field. So I pursued that a little bit, and I wrote a couple of pilots. They haven't been purchased yet, but I'm optimistic about that.
Send them our way, because we have lots of people that we know in that world. So
let's do it.
Bring them on.
They're both really good. Both are set in the city, and they're sort of on that same genre as sort of crime noirish, and they're really dramatic, and they would make great TV, I think, because there's a great cinematography aspect to them.
Cool.
At the same time, this book, Attleboro Blues, is also being shot for TV as well. So there's someone out in LA trying to turn that into a series, which would be great. I'd like to really see that.
I can already hear the theme music in my head. And then, and let's wrap up with this third book. So this third book is called what?
It's called Cucina Tipica,
okay.
An Italian Adventure. So the subtitle sort of helps translate the first title, which is Cucina Tipica, is an Italian expression like local cuisine. You know, cucina, cooking, tipica, typical. It's certainly an expression that was you saw a lot in Tuscany. A lot of restaurants have posted on their wall Cucina Tipica, almost like you might see home cooking down south. And the book is really full circle for me because it takes place in the village where I lived and wrote the first book. It's not our story of living there. It's entirely fiction, but it's about an American who is sort of disheartened about what's going on in America culturally, politically, etc. Goes on a trip with his wife, his fiancée, excuse me, to Italy. They get there, they break up. She goes home, and he wants to stay. He doesn't want to come back to America. So the book is really about his attempts to find a way, sort of live the antiquated existence that you could find in Italy that's not possible here in America. Simple food, beautiful, scenery, just to live the life he wants. So the story is really about his attempts to find a way to stay. And it's full of great food scenes, lots of wine, lots of travel, a nice adventure part of it too. There's some romance, but there's lots and lots of really good food scenes, which, is, I have to admit, one of my strengths.
And so you are an award-winning author, looking for another publisher on this third book.
Yes.
Right. So and the two books are already available.
The two books are available.
They can order them.
They're both available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, local bookstores. The copy I have for you, I actually picked up at a bookstore on the way out here. So I didn't have. I was out of copies.
They weren't in your trunk most of the times. I'll have a lot of authors on, and it's funny too, like whether it's Nelson DeMille or any of the people, because they want to bring me their book, and it's so funny because sometimes, you're right, sometimes the author only gets a certain number of copies.
Yeah, I gave mine out a long time ago.
Some of them are in their trunk, or some of them, obviously, they've got to go get one.
When I got my allotment, I was just giving it to everybody. And all of a sudden I was out of books, and I needed one for today. I had to actually go to a bookstore. The book's owner was very sweet. He gave it to me. He didn't make me buy it.
He said, this is for Donna. And
he was like, here,
that's great.
I
love it. That's so cute.
But the third book is finished. For me, that's the easy part. The hard part is finding a publisher.
There you go.
I have an agent, but I'm also open to offers. Many, independent press who wants to, I think it's a very commercially viable book. I think it's fun. It's evergreen themes of food and family, adventure, identity, and I think it's sort of food fiction, which makes a great, commercially viable beach read, summer read, book club read.
I love it. And because I know that you're such a prolific writer, I know that you're writing something like right now.
I am.
Can you tell me a little bit?
Yeah, I'm actually writing a sequel to Attleboro Blues.
You are?
Yeah, so when that book ends, the main character leaves Brooklyn and goes out to the northern New Jersey town where he's from. He buys a local inn, and that's where this book takes out. Another mystery ensues there.
Northern Jersey, like Park Ridge?
It's actually Glen Rock is the town. I don't call it that, but that's the town where I lived when I was little. It's where my wife is from. There's an inn in town that I set it in, but I don't call it that in the book, but there's a great mystery that evolves there, and it's halfway done.
Love it. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Looking so forward to spending more time with you. And each time you do a new book, just please go to the bookstore, buy me one.
Of course.
Okay, there you go.
And I'll come.
Stay tuned for more. We hope you enjoyed our visit with Andrew. Thank you for watching.